Eskom has confirmed that many of its employees are peacefully returning to work and that there are no incidents of protests reported so far today. The power utility says details of any wage offer will be made known on Friday when the wage negotiations resume. For more on this and other issues, we're now joined by Eskom spokesperson Sikonathi Mantshantsha. A very good day to you, Mr. Mantshantsha. You say many Eskom employees are returning to work. What are the chances of moving from stage 6 to a lower stage as a result of this?
Desiree, good morning and good morning to the viewers. The chances of returning to stages lower than 6 indeed are great. I must confirm first, though, that starting at 4 p.m. this afternoon, we will implement stage 6 all the way to 10 p.m. Thereafter, the stages will reduce to 2 and then to 4 and back to 2 again. We will confirm that detail as we go. But if you will allow me, I need to give you an update that on news I have just received in the last 30 minutes. The disruptions are still continuing at least one power station, that's Matla, where the workers are still gathering outside and protesting. In other power stations, yes, the absenteeism still continues. Not all of the workers have returned, but certainly maintenance has improved and operations have improved. There are no disruptions in those other power stations. There is at least one incident of violence that has been reported overnight, and that's a home of an operator that was petrol bombed in the Litabo area. The employee works for Litabo Power Station. Those are what we have, but the situation has significantly improved in terms of the protest action and the violence, except for the Matla Power Station.
This employee whose house was petrol bombed, are we able to link that petrol bombing to events at Eskom, and is this an employee who was continuing to work?
This is an employee that works as a controller at the power station, and yes, we can link the attack to the protest, and the employee was indeed continuing to work.
So as this process is dubbed an illegal process, as we look at the events that are unfolding that you're reporting to us now, are we able to take the bug back to NUM or NUMSA, or how do you handle this?
Desiree, the difficulty with this protest action, as we have said already, is unlawful. It should not be happening at all, despite whatever complaints the labor partners have and indeed employees on the ground. And it is for that reason that none of the labor unions came out and declared that they were leading their members on strike. They simply lumped the blame on Eskom for the deadlocks. On the talks, and they did not overtly call their employees to go on strike, precisely because they knew that would be breaking the law. The difficulties that we have, though, in directly attributing the blame to the unions is as a result of that. But the employees that have been protesting and have been going out have been waving openly the flags of some of these trade unions and are dressed in regalia belonging to these trade unions. And certainly the union leadership themselves did not and have not at any point condemned the behavior of the employees, the unlawful, the obstructions and the violence that has been happening.
So how did the meeting yesterday with the unions deal with the fact that the current labor issue you're dealing with is not sanctioned, it's not organized?
Let's repeat again. None of the trade unions have declared or confirmed that they are on strike. It is the workers on the ground that are actually going out. So it's an unprotected, unlawful strike. What the unions did do, and they with of course jointly with Eskom, they have called for the workers to go back to plant without actually acknowledging or accepting that they had led the workers out in the first place.
Mr. Mantshantsha, it's unlawful, it's unprotected, as you say, but it has, for only the second time since Eskom has implemented load shedding, led us to stage 6. So you have to admit it's a significant problem.
It absolutely is, and of course, Eskom needs every megawatt that can be made available at this point in time, and it has been needing these even before the industrial action. So this strike and indeed the backlog and the delays in maintenance, and as well as the lack of maintenance on plant that would have needed attention during this time, has indeed set us backwards, as we announced yesterday and confirmed in the statement while confirming the agreement with the unions. We did say this is going to take long to catch up on this backlog, to catch up on the maintenance that has had to be deferred as a result of the protest action. But our hope, and the teams are working very hard to reduce the stage of load shedding, hopefully to where it was before the commencement of the industrial action, and then with time to suspending it.
So you had the meeting with Numa Numsa yesterday, but they've now released a statement decrying the fact that the Minister of Public Enterprises, Pravin Gordhan, went ahead and said there had been agreement, and they say that they haven't gone to the bargaining forum yet. As a result, they haven't consulted their members and are unhappy about this statement by the minister. What is Eskom's thoughts here?
There is a mechanical process that always must be followed in wage talks at the bargaining forum, and that is whenever the labor unions, which represent the employees, have an offer in their hands that they think they can put to their members to vote on, they do that. So at this point, the unions have an offer on their hands, and as they did confirm indeed, they have to canvass the view of the members who mandated them to engage in the negotiations in the first place, and we will hear from them what the feedback is and whether the offer has been accepted by the employees. All of the details will be revealed on Friday when the wage talks begin again at the bargaining forum.
There's some who feel that Eskom was using stage 6 as a bargaining tool. Is this correct?
Eskom cannot bargain with the lives of South Africans. Eskom cannot put the country's security at risk in order to benefit in wage shocks. Eskom has got a responsibility to 60 million South Africans, and not only the 29,000 employees that are part of the bargaining forum. Eskom has been and still is trying to bring to online every megawatt of power available. What we did have here are labor unions and indeed employees who know how much power they have when it comes to the supply of electricity. And they used that, and that's how we ended up at stage 6.
Are you able to give us the details of what was discussed yesterday and some of the points that might have been agreed on?
Desiree, what has been agreed on, Desiree, is that all the workers must report for duty with immediate effect, and that's starting yesterday. There is total agreement on that amongst the parties that met. There is also total agreement that the unions will present to their members an offer that has been made by Eskom, and the unions will indeed give feedback when the wage talks continue at the bargaining forum on Friday. And at that point, South Africa will know whether or not this strike action or these wage talks have been successfully concluded.
So I spoke to a union representative earlier, and I asked them just in terms of the fact that the workers are disregarding the formations and the organized nature of the unions and embarking on this process on their own. Does this make issues difficult, and is Eskom undermining the role of the unions in bringing this tranche of conversation to conclusion?
The role of the unions is to engage on behalf of their members with the employer, the management representing the board and the whole company, and that's what Eskom has been doing. In the wage talks, Eskom presented an offer to the unions that was immediately rejected, and that's when the talks reached a deadlock. So there is no question on the side of Eskom where negotiations should happen, where wage negotiations should happen. What there is a problem with is workers' unions actually encouraging in the background their members to go on strike and to gamble with the lives of the people of South Africa and threaten an already fragile and very constrained power system that was already load shedding before that. That is the concern here. The concern is actually members going deliberately to break the law. One, as an essential services company, there can be no protest action that is legal at Eskom. But in addition to that, they went all the way and intimidated those workers who wanted to report for work. They intimidated those people who had nothing to do with the strikes. For example, the coal, the truckers supplying the coal to the power stations and other commodities, those had to be obstructed, and they were not allowed access into some of the facilities. And of course, the violence that I have reported this morning, and that Pravin Gordhan reported yesterday, all of these attacks on members whose only sin is to want to deliver the services that they get paid for, that the rest of the teams get paid for. That is the serious threat here, the disrespect, total disrespect for the rule of law.
Sikonathi, the unions are only but one of your stakeholders. The millions of South Africans and businesses are also one of your very important stakeholders. And you have to agree, stage 6 level of outages totally decimates especially the business sector. What consideration are you giving to this stakeholder, your clients?
I have, Desiree, already said at least 3 times in this conversation that Eskom is accountable to more than 60 million citizens of this country who pay their taxes, who pay their bills for this power they consume, who rely absolutely and have no other alternative on the electricity that must be provided by Eskom and its employees. We have a duty to the country to deliver that, and every employee that works for Eskom and every member of this team has a duty and a legal obligation to deliver that electricity to the people. It is devastating enough to even have to implement one stage of load shedding, to have to be forced by labor unions or by workers who are dissatisfied with negotiations at the bargaining forum, to have to implement stage 6 is really taking things too far. Eskom has roped the law enforcement agencies to help, and we thank the members of the South African Police Service who did come out in support and help minimize the levels of disruptions and intimidations at the power station. But more importantly, our gratitude goes to those loyal and dedicated and patriotic employees who went beyond the call of duty and reported for work, despite the risks to themselves and to their families, and they managed to help us keep the lights on to the extent that Eskom did. The people of South Africa, unfortunately, have had to be inconvenienced. It's totally unacceptable, and Eskom continues to apologize for all these disruptions that occur. We implement load shedding only as a last resort in order to protect the system. And by law, the system operator always has to make sure that...
Mr. Mantshantsha, unfortunately, we're time-tied and going to have to end it here. Thank you so much for your time this morning. We'll be watching to see events on Friday.